Every day after school, Thomas Valero saw his little daughter crying, and he knew that something serious was happening. When he finally discovered the problem, he couldn't believe what was happening, so he had to do something cunning and unusual, but he knew the truth had to come out. A father puts a recording device in his daughter's hair and catches the teacher red-handed. Before we start, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell to get more amazing videos. Starting school is not easy for any child. They need all the support they can get from their parents to adapt to this big change. No matter how competent the teacher is, it's always a scary time for the child. With the new routine, new faces, and different environment, some children find it difficult to adapt to this big change in their lives. During this difficult transitional period, starting a new school becomes even worse for the child if they encounter a strict or harsh teacher. When it became clear that his daughter was having trouble adjusting to her school, Thomas knew he had to find out why his little girl was struggling. Every parent wants the best for their child, and it's natural for them to worry if their children are in pain. Thomas was no different when he noticed that his daughter was struggling every day. He became more worried and upset. Every day his daughter's behavior set off alarm bells in his mind. Thomas immediately noticed a change in his daughter. She became more emotional after she started her new school. At first, Thomas assumed it was just stress related to meeting new people and trying to do well. But when things got worse over time, he knew there was something more to it, something he was seeing less and less. Thomas's daughter started crying and begging to stay home from school, and eventually this became a daily routine in the Valero household. Every morning, his little girl would break down in tears. Thomas was very worried about this, and things weren't getting any better until he just couldn't take it anymore. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, all the excitement and joy. It seemed like all the excitement and joy had disappeared from his daughter. But what was worse was that she seemed even more afraid of going to school every morning. It was a battle of wills, but she was clearly terrified. The situation got so bad that she didn't want to go to school at all anymore. As a concerned father, Thomas tried to find out what was wrong. He tried to talk to his daughter, but she shut herself off and refused to tell the truth. Thomas knew he couldn't leave things as they were, and he also knew he couldn't bear to see his daughter continue to suffer like this. But what was the alternative? Thomas's daughter was studying at Pine Grove Elementary. Thomas hadn't noticed any problems with his daughter before she started at the new school. She always seemed like a happy, friendly, and healthy girl, creative and able to make friends easily. Now, she seems like a different child. What happened? Thomas noticed that the change in his daughter started as soon as she began attending the new school. He could pinpoint the exact time. This was when she went from being a happy girl to being in a very bad mental state. Thomas pondered the reason. Was it the school, the children, or perhaps the teacher? Before this, his daughter was doing well in school. She was getting good grades, and there were no negative reports about her. But just a few months after starting school, her grades, along with her mental state, began to decline. To make matters worse, she became emotional both before and after school. What was happening? It became very difficult for Thomas to see his little daughter behaving this way. He felt completely helpless, but he knew it was time to get to the truth of the situation. He had reached a breaking point. We're sure that any parent concerned about their child's well-being would feel the same way. It was hard to see his daughter unhappy every day, and with his repeated attempts to find out the reason, his daughter became even more withdrawn. That's when Thomas realized that something serious might actually be happening. He thought about it deeply. Then he came to the conclusion that she might be being bullied, either by one of her classmates or even by one of her teachers. They had a stable and happy family life at home, so he knew that this couldn't be the reason for his daughter's unhappiness. But how could he discover the truth? He made a bold decision. Being patient is very important, and it may be one of the most important virtues we can all learn, even if it's hard to practice. When it comes to teaching young children, this becomes even more valuable. If you have dealt with children before, you know how difficult it can be to handle them as a teacher. Patience is an essential part of the job requirements. What made things more worrying was that his daughter was very young. She was in her formative years, which is a critical and important stage in her life. What happens during this time will greatly affect her in the future, so it was very important for Thomas to get to the truth of the matter. Thomas and his wife raised their 2 daughters and son with specific values, always making sure to surround them with positivity and encouraging them to be the best version of themselves. They know how important it is for children to develop a strong sense of self to prepare them for what the future holds. Thomas wasn't ready to give up all the hard work he had put into raising his children. Doubts turn into certainty. Considering the values of Thomas and his wife, it was clear that the harsh teacher could seriously affect the children in the class. Thomas and his wife didn't want this to happen to their little daughter. They began to suspect that what they saw was just the tip of the iceberg and that they were uncovering a bigger ongoing problem. As an innovative person, Thomas decided that he needed to find out what was happening with his daughter. He was having difficulty because his daughter was too young and too shy to tell him what was going on. The time had come for the worried father to take matters into his own hands. The bold plan, being the father that he was, he couldn't allow his daughter to continue being sadder and sadder. With each passing day, he had had enough and decided to do something about it. The only question was how? He thought about it for a while, then finally came up with the perfect plan. But how could he hear what was happening at school without being there all the time? He knew that if he asked to sit in the classroom for a day, the teacher would change her behavior. He needed a more creative solution to make sure he caught her red-handed. So Thomas decided to literally listen in and put his plan into action. He designed a small recording device, and the next morning he carefully placed it in his daughter's hair. This way, he would be able to listen to what was happening at school. He knew this was a drastic measure, but it was important to him. It was important not only to know what was happening, but also to have concrete evidence. He didn't tell his daughter what he had put in her hair because he was afraid it would distract her throughout the day. He waited eagerly to find out what would happen throughout the school day. When his daughter came home, he listened to the recording and was shocked by what he heard. When Thomas started listening to the recording, he was stunned and shocked by what he heard. The teacher was speaking in a demeaning tone and yelling at the students for no reason. The harsh words and condescending tone were very clear, and that was enough to confirm his suspicions. It was obvious that this treatment was the main reason for his daughter's suffering. As he continued listening, Thomas realized that the teacher was abusing her authority in an unacceptable way, which made him even angrier and sadder at the same time. Quick action. There was no time to waste. Thomas decided to act swiftly to make sure this behavior wouldn't continue. Instead of confronting the teacher directly, Thomas knew that wouldn't lead to any result. So, he decided to go to the school administration to file an official complaint supported by the audio evidence, but the surprise was that the school administration did not take any serious action. Disappointment. The school's response was completely insufficient for Thomas. They said they had punished the teacher, but they did not give any guarantee that these actions would not be repeated. For Thomas, that was unacceptable. His daughter was still in the same class with the same teacher, facing an even bigger challenge. Thomas did not stop there. He felt he had to protect his daughter and the other children in the class. He started a petition on change.org demanding the teacher's dismissal. The petition received wide support from parents and gathered thousands of signatures in a short time. The media supported the cause. The story spread quickly and reached local, then national media outlets. Thomas became a strong voice advocating for children's rights and safety. The temporary ending. Despite efforts, the teacher wasn't dismissed but was placed under supervision. Thomas succeeded in transferring his daughter to another class with a different teacher. Thomas learned from this experience the importance of monitoring his children's behavior and helping them during difficult times. His family became stronger because of what they went through, and Thomas proved that he is a father willing to do anything to protect his children. A lesson for everyone. This story is an important reminder for both parents and teachers alike. Children need a positive and safe environment to grow up healthy.